And our pitch is for a thriller movie about a middle-aged man, and he's just a regular man. He's got a normal job and he's got a wife and a family and everything. But then one day he meets a young woman who starts flirting with him in a bar. So he starts getting interested in her, and then he starts cheating on his wife, and he starts to have a midlife crisis, starts to cheat on his wife. He buys himself a new car and all stuff like that. But then he starts to get suspicious that his wife is having someone follow him to sort of find out what he's doing, and he starts to have a bit of a mental breakdown and become paranoid of everybody that he meets because he's suspicious that they're following him for his wife.
The opening sequence will start off with the main character who's running from a figure that we can't see, and then this shot will change to him having a mental breakdown as he pushes through a crowd of people, which these shots will keep alternating. The transition will get faster and faster until we see the main character dropping to his knees and screaming, which then the title will then be displayed. So for this we plan to film most of it along Gale Street and outside school for the crowd scene, and will be filmed in daylight, which will challenge the convention, which they usually use low-key lighting or darkness.
We're basically going to try and stick to the main thriller conventions, like the feeling of tension and suspense, but so we can get our the idea of the thriller film across to our target audience. And our target audience will be adults aged around 20 to 40. We're chosen to put it at this age group so that the people watching it will be able, because it's going to be a fairly difficult opening to understand. We feel that if it's an older generation of people watching it, they seem to click more with it and understand the main plot more than if it was like a teenager watching it or something like that, basically.
Just my initial reaction, it reminds me of the plot that you outlined reminds me of Fatal Attraction. It's quite old for you maybe. And I don't know, I almost feel that there's a gap between the plot that you've got, which does seem like a thriller, and the actual opening sequence idea that you've got, which I don't think would engage people. To be honest, I think it's very bland and doesn't meet, you've got such potential with the plot that you've got. The overall film idea it really made me think about the dynamic, and you could have such a different opening sequence, I think, that would engage. The old audience thing is a cop-out, Daniel, really, to say that people who are younger wouldn't, it's just your way of justifying that opening sequence.
Yeah, certainly because the opening, it seems to be a bit, it's supposed to be trying to be a bit confusing, but...
Lost in Translation.
Go and watch Lost in Translation.
You need to do a bit more research on thriller films similar to your plot idea and come back to your opening sequence.
In all honesty though, that's the best whole film treatment we've had today. That's the best concept for a film, and if this was a board meeting and we were giving out money, that treatment would get the money. I'd make you rethink your opening idea, but as a treatment it's interesting. It's interesting because it's character driven. You've got this idea of a character following a single character and having some fairly, there's nothing big in this idea. This film doesn't require huge explosions or massive chase sequences for it to be interesting. If we're talking about making a decent British film, which is what you're all kind of trying to do, that's the best treatment. But your opening sequence needs to be different. So I think Lost in Translation would be a really interesting for you to watch, and I'd advise you watching all of those. Because I think actually what you need is almost the opposite of what I said to every other group. You need a really slow, really subtle, really understated opening sequence, possibly with no dialogue at all, and just an absolutely brilliant middle-aged actor doing even something, just an opening sequence of 2 minutes that shows how mundane his life has become, and just getting his kind of reaction to that in his face only rather than from dialogue could be absolutely brilliant. So you almost need to pay yours right back and do something really simple and straightforward, I think.
Because when you were talking at the beginning, I imagined the opening sequence to be very slow, the pace to be very slow and absolutely character driven, and I think that would work, because what you've done, I think the gap is that what you've done is you've gone, what is it that all the conventions of the thriller, right, okay, we'll put them in our opening sequence, chases, and it doesn't meet your actual idea, which is really good. Anyway, let's, Josh, sorry.
With that opening sequence, if you keep doing cuts, then it goes to the title, what film's called, like a trailer.
That's another risk, obviously. At the back?
Have you got an actor in mind, someone that you know who will be willing to do this film?
No, not at the moment.
Not any family members or friends, family members who... all.
This is all male leads. you noticed?
I think your idea is really interesting, but I think the opening sequence needs to be different, completely different. Go and watch Lost in Translation. Is a good starting point. I can't think of any other films to recommend that's got that kind of.
I want you to watch Attraction just because.
Or
she
American
burns
Beauty as well. American Beauty.
Yes. Yes.
Like, think about the opening sequence to that. That's an incredibly striking opening.
Mm.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So think about that's again slow but huge visual impacts in terms of opening sequence. Very good.
And in terms of acting, we've got lots of middle-aged men
If
to
we
teach
need-
here,
if
so
we need-
I'm sure they'd love it.
Yeah. Or if we need to pay for an
Yeah.
actor for a day, we can do that. Extras are fairly cheap.
Mm.
Pay out of work actors. Fairly small amounts of money to come and do projects like this if we need to, if we really get stuck.
Yeah. But you need to show some of your
Let's
research.
do everyone. If everyone gets stuck and finds an work actor that we can get for whatever it is, 150 quid a day or whatever, we'll have a look at it. All right? Good
You think
pitch.
it works?
Good pitch.
Go on
Thank you
then.
very much.
Yeah, well done.
Is that all? That's it.